power utility Eskom declared a power emergency for a second consecutive day. Here to discuss this and related issues is Eskom Spokesperson Andrew Etzinger. Andrew, thank you so much and lovely to have you at the desk.
Thanks,
let's start off with the State of the Nation address, a big focus on energy, talk of subcommittees. The key takeaways as Eskom from the State of the Nation?
Certainly great news that the key takeaway, firstly, that energy will be a priority for government and specifically energy security. So I think we've often in the past decades looked at this from a distance and hoped that Eskom will do the right thing and let's introduce a bit of the market, etc. But now I think there's definitely an active stance within government to make sure that the mistakes of the past that we as a country have taken in not building capacity quickly enough won't reoccur. And great to see that the State President went as far as outlining the specific technologies which will form part of our energy future. So very good news, I think, for the whole sector. Good news for Eskom in terms of the emerging clarity on our role still as to be an operator of power stations, not necessarily to fund them. We don't have that ability anymore, but great to see that certainly there's a proactive stance that we'll have capacity online before we need it, as opposed to, as we are now, trying to catch up as quickly as we can. So great to see.
Andrew, looking at that mix, the solar, the wind, the coal, the nuclear and so on, I was told the other day that South Africa has the second highest sun exposure to the sun in the world, after Chile, apparently.
Wow.
We have more sun than anywhere else except Chile. And it's said to be a no-brainer that we're not doing more with solar power. What is your mix? I mean, you've got one nuclear power station, and there are views about the nuclear and the safety issues, but
sure,
broadly, the engineers, if they look after things properly, nuclear is safe.
Yes.
So where are the projections now for the mix? Obviously, coal is dominant for a long time, but where's it going to get to?
Okay, so coal is still dominant. 90% of our mix comes from coal, but a big contribution coming through from solar, as you mentioned. In fact, the Northern Cape is booming. The economy is booming because of the number of solar plants which have been put up, making a contribution actually at this stage of 600 megawatts to the grid, 1,000 megawatts by the end of the year, which will be more than the first generator of Medupi. So we always talk about Medupi, but actually silently the solar plants and the other renewables are actually going to be coming on stream a lot faster. Great contribution.
Also, 1,000 megawatts here or there makes the difference between load shedding and not.
It makes all the difference. When we have load shed, and of course we did need to go to that extent on Tuesday evening this week and then 2 days last week as well, it was up to 1,000 megawatts, so that really would have made the difference. The only drawback with the sun, of course, is that it doesn't shine all the time, and with our peak at from about 5:30 in the afternoon, what we see is actually a double whammy. We're seeing then everybody going home, switching on their appliances, leading to the spike, but also we're losing the power from those solar plants because obviously they're fed out. So it's a growing gap of supply and demand, but certainly during the day, great contribution.
Well, you've raised the issue of Medupi, and I want us to revisit it. It's obviously been top of mind. We've had both from Brian Damas to former Minister Malusi Gigaba saying that heads would roll if Medupi doesn't come on in time. And recently the President saying that we're going to be accelerating what we're doing at Medupi. That almost gives one the sense that we haven't been going at the pace that we should be going at Medupi.
Yeah.
What is the state at Medupi?
Have you guys been working half day up to now? Now the President wants you to speed up.
We've seen at least 9 months lost due to the fact that we've had industrial action on the site. And I think very similar to the...
Just pause there for a moment, Andrew, just to look at those promises that were made there. Penalties will be hard should any delays be experienced. Heads will roll. And that was the previous deadline.
That was the previous deadline. And then we had Damas saying Medupi delay won't cause load shedding, which obviously has not transpired.
And then we meet the synchronization date by the end of this year. Well, maybe not. But coming back to you, Andrew, sorry to interrupt you there on the load, on the Medupi, the so-called accelerated project.
Yeah, so the delays in the past have been caused by industrial action, 9 months lost in one block alone, not to mention the stops and starts in between that. And certainly the platinum sector, I think, gives a more vivid feel, I think, to everyone as to how that plays out. Medupi is very far away, but it has been devastating. And I think what I understood from the State President is to say that once again, as part of the energy security, there'll be a far greater involvement by government in working together with the organised labour and with Eskom and with the contractors to make sure that we don't see those delays again. At this stage, the project is well on track. We are really in good shape towards first power on the grid from Medupi by the end of this year. So, it's a
Oh,
So
couple of
we'll
months
be
away.
adding you to that board?
Yeah, your name will also be on the board.
Well,
Now-
I see the heads there that were on the board, most of them have rolled anyway. Of course, we have a new minister. We have Mr. Damas is gone, and he's Group Capital Manager who built Medupi.
So-
And Mr. Paul Aflati's gone as well. So,
It's
depending
true.
on how you see it, rolls
Are you
goes
prepared to put your head on the block, to use another, to have your head chopped off as opposed to have it roll? Well, I suppose it would then roll. When will Medupi be finished, or when will it start producing, and how much will it start producing when it does?
There was a journalist who sadly passed away early this year who actually took me a 1,000 Rand bet as to whether Medupi would be online by the end of this year. He passed away after making that bet. And I don't intend claiming from his estate, but certainly I'm very confident that 1,000 Rand will be in my pocket. So, no, I would be happily to...
It will start producing electricity by the end of the year?
Yes, so it's what a process called synchronization. So basically it means that as you would plug an appliance into the wall, it will be working, it will be contributing to the grid. During the first 2 to 3 months of next year, we would expect that it won't necessarily operate on a continuous basis. There'll be certain tests which need to be done to sign off contractors' work. So, for example, if one of the tests is that it must start and stop and stop, it may go through some of those tests just before we find it. Bearing in mind that this power station needs to last 50 years, and before we release contractors from their obligations, we want to put this horse through its paces. So that's what we'll be doing.
Well, on the one hand, should you lose that bet, 500 rands each will do just fine. But I want to also test an assumption that we've heard and an allegation that we've heard in the media quite a bit, and that in particular saying that the platinum strike in some warped way has been a blessing for Eskom because of just the decrease in consumption that we've seen in energy because of that strike. Should a deal be met in the platinum belt, is Eskom in trouble then?
Well, platinum uses about 2% of the country's energy, so certainly that does make a difference, particularly on tight days. But it's not the way we want to get out of jail. I think we'd far rather, with our mandate of contributing to the economy, we far rather would have supplied power to the platinum sector. In winter, bearing in mind that our problems have been in the early evening, what we find is that industrialists in general respond very well to a time of use tariff, and that the platinum sector would have scaled back over the peak time anyway. So it wouldn't have given us much, wouldn't have made much difference at our critical times this winter. So we really are hoping that the platinum sector comes back as soon as possible for the benefit of the economy. Our lines are ready, our capacity is there, specifically during the day and over the night when they take most power from the grid.
Let's get back to that evening peak time which you referred to now. Last time you were in the studio with us, you said, look, if everyone just switched off their geyser, we wouldn't have a problem. So people can help in that way. I want to take you on the way you're talking about the load shedding.
Sure.
I think they should be called power cuts. I mean, load shedding makes it sound euphemistic. They're power cuts. Yep. I want to put it to you that I wouldn't mind, well, I would mind, but not nearly as much if I wasn't surprised. So if you said to me, look, on Thursday this week, if we have to cut, it'll be Johannesburg, the western suburbs. On Friday, it'll be Durban, and so on. What I'm hearing from the announcements, and I don't know if the media generally are reporting not what you're saying, only part of it, you say there will be load shedding, you don't say where, and afterwards you don't say where it was. We actually need to know that.
Sure. We have a load shedding schedule which has all that information available, and we have literally hundreds of suburbs around the country, and each one of those suburbs appears on our load shedding schedule. What we really ask everyone in the country to do is download a copy of the schedule off our website, or it's available through our call centre. Familiarise yourself with your particular area and where it would occur. I know it's a pain, but as you say, rather be forewarned.
But can't you put it on the radio news?
It simply would take too long to read out 100. Unfortunately, these are not big. These are not massive blocks of Joburg, and then Tshwane on Tuesday. That's simply not possible because the grid stability would be compromised then. So we're needing to take smaller suburbs within particular areas around the country to keep it stable. So unfortunately, it's a great suggestion, and I think it would be great, for example, if we could say Gauteng on Monday, Western Cape, we could even get, but unfortunately, it's just not practical from a grid
And
perspective.
I just want to read you a line that we've picked up, or the producers have picked up from a particular story, and the line says, air pollution caused by Eskom's coal power station in 2 provinces is killing at least 20 people per year, and this could jump to 617 people, with 25,000 people hospitalized once all its stations are up and running. How do we respond to that?
Pollution at ground level is in South Africa is still at very, very low levels. So of course there are those environmentalists who you would pull stats, but certainly we've done a number of studies over years. It's not out of control. Firstly, secondly, there are many contributors such as automotive vehicles, which actually contribute in an area such as Johannesburg far greater than Eskom. On the whole, Eskom and electricity has made a massive contribution to actually improving the quality of air, because what we have done is basically ruled out many of the traditional fuel uses, firewood, etc., coal that would have been burnt in homes. As we're now seeing homes use electricity through our electrification program. So overall, it's been a massive success. Certainly close to power stations, we are concerned in certain cases, and we are in the process of always upgrading the environmental standards on our older power stations, especially. So it's not to say that we are complacent. A lot can be done, but. I think we would take issue with saying that there's 20 deaths. No, there's no evidence really, as far as we're aware, to back that up.
Andrew, the other day we were talking about Eskom behind your back, and I was saying I live in Northcliffe in Johannesburg, and the lights never go out on the ridge. Can you please just put them out once, just to prove that the Eskom executives don't live there? I think what would be good is a report afterwards, a summary of where the lights have been on and off, so that we feel it's fair.
Yes, point well taken. I think two issues here. The first is to give feedback after the fact is vitally important, because certainly on many evenings, such as last night and the night before, it's touch and go. We are not, and I think certain homeowners need to know, what actually happened. The second issue is that, let's take Northcliffe, for example, an area supplied by city power, not by Eskom. We also need to make sure that our load shedding schedules are properly integrated with those of municipalities. So from the Eskom schedule, everybody, rich and poor, appears on the Eskom web schedule. There's no preference and no favourites.
Including
given.
where the chairman lives, eh?
Exactly. In fact, our former chairman actually complains once in a while. He says, he's been load shedding too often, so no, absolutely no favourites.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for making the time to join us
My
today.
pleasure.
That was Andrew Etzinger. He's the spokesperson for Eskom.